Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokemon Emerald video. Since I had some issues lately with Kingdra, I thought it would be interesting to try to use it myself. So today we are going to run throughout the entire game with just this guy. Kingdra has a lot of positives that we will explore throughout the game. For the rules, I can only use my starter in combat, I can't use any consumables from my bag in battle, I can't increase my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. I have to admit, I have never used Kingdra much on its own in the regular games, mostly because, like many other Pokémons, it requires trading to evolve. I was expecting the move pool to be much bigger, but it is still quite diverse and it should be more than enough to carry us throughout the game. We can start with a good assortment of moves. Stab Water Gun should be quite good for the start of the game. The only point where we are going to struggle is trainers with the grass types, like our rival. For this one, I decided to use evil tactics myself by spamming Smokescreen quite a bit at the start of the fight, so that her Trico would not be able to land many attacks on me. He was still able to hit me quite a few times, bringing me kinda low, but fortunately I was able to dodge enough of them to buy myself enough turns to defeat it. Now that we are done with the biggest obstacle in a little bit, we can move on to the grunt in the forest, which as usual is not very dangerous. It could get annoying if his sand attacks are very effective, but with a little bit of luck I should be able to land enough water guns on it to defeat it very easily. Next we have the first gym, and unfortunately for her, Roxanne is not going to have a good day today. By having a stab water move, I should be able to defeat most of her team in one shot. The only thing that will surely survive is the Nosepass, since it is not 4 times weak to it, but it still takes a lot of damage, and I should be able to defeat it in a few attacks once she runs out of potions. As expected, she was not a problem, and with that we have acquired the first badge. Next, I took on some of the stuff around town with the Pico side quest, and before leaving we have to face May once again. This fight was even more dangerous than the previous one, since she now has a Wingull too, which also resists water. To make things worse, it knows Supersonic, which ends up confusing me, so that's a bit annoying. At least thanks to the few extra levels, I can take down Trico in a much easier way than the previous encounter. Now that we are free from our rival, we can take on the second gym. My damage output is not too high, so I was a bit scared I would not be able to defeat his Pokémons before they could set up a bunch and destroy me. Fortunately, water is special, so at least I can ignore the defense buffs from Bulk-Up. Makuhita is scary, but fortunately I can dodge the potion range, so in a few attacks he is defeated too. This time around I do not care for Bulk-Up, since Kingdra cannot learn that move. Our next stop is at Slateport, where we have to rescue this guy from a couple of Team Aqua grunts. They can be a bit annoying, since my only damaging moves are water, so their Carvanas are going to resist them. Even if that's the case, they are still going to be defeated in a few attacks each, since that Pokémon has a very low defense and special defense. Once we are done with the grunts too, we are visited by their team leader Archie, who rents for a while before letting us go. After this encounter, I trained a bit more with the trainers around town, and then I took on the May fight in the land bridge. This one was quite scary, since her starter has now evolved into a Grovyle, so I thought it would be a bit more problematic. Well, it appears that I overestimated it, since Watergun is still able to deal quite a bit of damage, and for whatever reason, it does not use Absorb much. He is still able to take away half of my HP, but that's nothing to worry about. Once we reach Mobile and train here a bit more too, we are ready to fight Watson. Usually he is quite the pain, but today it's not going to be the case. I have bought Ice Beam from the casino for some extra power, and thanks to my dragon typing, I am only neutral to his electric moves, so I should not take that much damage either. The usual Cherry Berry saves me from paralysis, and just like that, we are done with him in no time at all. Kind of surprising how easy he was. During the exploration of the region, we also meet the two teams in Meteor Caves having a bit of an argument, and one thing links to the other. We soon end up on top of the local volcano facing Maxi. He wants to activate it to revive Groudon, but I'm not sure that would have even worked considering the orbs subplot later. Anyway, the fight against him was quite easy since we are a special attacker, Ice Beam takes care of most things, and Water Gun absolutely destroys Camerupt. It's a bit unfortunate that we still have that base 40 power move. I would have liked if Kingdra learned anything slightly more powerful, but I can't complain since it is still good enough to take care of the next gym. Flannery specializes in fire types, so water is going to be very effective against her, and if somehow her Pokémons manage to land an attack on me, fire moves will deal no damage because of the 4 times resist. Torkoal proves to be quite tanky, being able to leave an attack and then is healed multiple times, but eventually Flannery runs out of potions and so that's her ace defeated. After some backtracking, we reach the next gym. Unfortunately, here I end up losing because slacking puts me to sleep and I skip way too many turns. I was kinda hoping that he would spam counter like he usually does, but he was smarter this time. The second attempt starts off even worse, since I by mistake use Water Gun quite a few times at the start, giving him more than enough turns to lower my HP by a lot. Then again, the main problem is whether or not slacking would put me to sleep, because if he does not, I should be able to defeat him. I can also get a bit lucky and get a freeze against him, but that's not very reliable. This time around, he does not put me to sleep, but only uses Facade, and the next turn I get a crit Ice Beam, defeating the slacking in easy fashion. Finally, we are given the Surf HM, which is going to be a huge increase in our damage. With this new move, we can also explore more of the region, and eventually we reach the Weather Institute, where the Admiral Shelley is holding some scientists hostages. She is not exactly a threat and gets absolutely swept away by Surf. Once we are done with that situation, we can move on to the next fight against May, and she is a bit more dangerous this time around, or at least she should be, but unfortunately for her, I have Ice Beam, which can now easily take care of her starter, so that's a huge threat on her team nullified. After defeating her too, we can reach 4-3, and here we have to take on the next gym leader. Winona specializes in flying types, so this should not be that hard. The only thing that might be a bit annoying is Pelipper, since it is only neutral to ice and resists water, so he will most likely be able to survive an attack or two. And of course, he has to make me waste time with the protect multiple turns. Also, there are the potions from the gym leader, so that was not exactly very fun. But at least he was the only annoying part of the fight, since everything else gets one-shotted. Now that we have the flying badge, we can resume our journey, and in the next town over, we find May for the last optional fight against her. Once again, her team improved a bit more, but just like our previous encounter, there is not a whole lot she was able to do. I guess she took a page from Winona's book, since she too has an annoying Pelipper, but this one gets frozen, so at least that was easier. Rest of the team easily falls to Ice Beam, even though I am a bit surprised that Slagma was able to survive one attack. Yeah, I know he resisted, but it's a Slagma. Anyway, next we can do the usual stuff in the cemetery, getting the fire emblem so we can enter the secret hideout of the team Magma, where we find their leader waking up the legendary with the wrong orb, of course. Since Crodon refuses to listen to him and runs away, Maxi attacks us. Fortunately, since I am a special attacker today, the fight against him is not going to be very problematic. Also, it's going to be a bit slower, since apparently my computer was dying and the emulator was only able to go at like 150% speed or something like that, instead of the 4 times as usual. Anyway, once we have defeated him too, we have to infiltrate the other team's base to stop them from waking up Kyogre. Unfortunately, we are only able to find one of their admirals, who is quite easy, even though I am kind of running out of PPs. And by fighting this guy, he buys enough time for his leader to run away in a stolen submarine. After some grinding on the ocean, I was able to finally attempt Tate and Liza. This time around, those guys are going to be much easier, since I have a Surf, which is a great move to deal with them. Since my special attack is not crazy high and I am not that overleveled, it will not be enough to one-shot most of their Pokémons, but this does not matter too much, because they are still going to end up wasting a bunch of turns either setting up or using hyper potions on their Pokémons. So in the end, this was just a Surf spam for quite a few turns until everything on the other side of the field was defeated. Once we have obtained the penultimate badge, we can get to the second double fight of the island with Steven against the Team Magma guys. I do not have a whole lot to say about this one. Once again, Surf proves to be extremely powerful, by far the strongest HM move in my opinion, and since it is a special attack, even the Mightyana's Intimidate does not matter. The only thing that is a bit annoying in this fight is that since it is a double fight, Surf power is a bit lower, and so I cannot reliably one-shot everything. This gives them enough turns to land some annoying moves on me, and in the middle of the fight, Kingdra also learned Dragon Dance, which will be a very useful move later on. It's not every day to see a mixed moveset. Generally, it's better to use either physical or special, depending on what the Pokemon is best at, but since Kindra's stats are so even, it is quite doable. After defeating those guys, Steven gives us the dive gem, and with that we can reach the seafloor cave, where we are attacked by Archie. The fight against him is very similar to the previous ones against Maxi, just spam special moves and you will be done in no time. Not sure why I used secret power against Sharpedo. I am sure Surf would have done much more damage even though it is resisted. Anyway, even though we have defeated him, this does not stop the red orb activation, and with the boot of the legendaries awake, the region is at risk of being destroyed. To stop the catastrophe, we have to go ask Rayquaza for help, and while I do that, could you take a second to press the like, share, subscribe buttons and all of that YouTube stuff? It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you! After saving the world, we are officially ready to take on the last gym. Juan specializes in water types, and they are a bit annoying since both of my special moves are resisted. And that's exactly where Dragon Dance comes into play, because I too resist their moves, or at least take them very well, and so I have more than enough time to spam quite a few Dragon Dances, increasing my physical attack to very high levels. Once I have like +4 or +5, I can go on the offensive by using secret power, and with all of that extra attack, it is more than enough to one-shot everything, including his very annoying Kingdra. With Juan defeated, we have acquired all of the badges of the region, and now we can enter the Victory Road. Here we are stopped by Wally, who wants one more match, and unfortunately I end up losing. I get paralyzed by a Dragon Breath, and that leads to my defeat. The second time around I was a bit more careful and immediately removed the Altaria with an Ice Beam, and now I should be more than enough capable of defeating the rest of his team. It was a bit silly of me to underestimate that dragon, but I guess you live and you learn, or not. Worst part is I did not even need to set up. Everything is a one-shot other than Gardevoir, and to be honest, it's the least threatening Pokemon on his team, at least for me today. Once we have defeated Wally, we can explore the rest of the cave, and once we come out on the other end, we can start the league. Here, the first member is Sidney, who is generally quite annoying, but today I can get through him quite easily with my special attacks. Surf and Ice Beam are a good combo to take care of most of his team. The only thing that is going to be a bit annoying is Kronaast, since it resists both of them. And of course, the Elite Four is not going to play fair and spam a bunch of full restores on the Lobster. That's fine, as I can use Surf over and over again, and eventually we are done with the first member. Next up is Pheobe, and I was a bit worried that one Surf would not be enough to defeat her lead Dusclops, so she could curse me and all of that. Fortunately, I was wrong, and one Surf is indeed enough to take care of that guy. Without Curse, the rest of the team is a lot less threatening, especially because they are all a one-shot other than the second Dusclops, but he is only one guy, so he cannot do that much to me. Now that Phoebe is defeated too, we can take on the third member, Glacia. She is a bit more dangerous since ice is neutral on me, but there is a bit of an exploit. You see, she really likes to use hail with her Cilios, so while she does that, I can use the turn to set up a Dragon Dance. Surprisingly, even with the +1, return is not enough to defeat Glacia, and it sets up a pretty useless light screen. I end up using another Dragon Dance as she heals and can defeat the Glacia with the +2. Luckily for me, the hail also stops, so now her second Celio wants to use it again, and so I can sneak in another Dragon Dance. Now that I am at +3, I am much more confident in my abilities. The only thing who might survive is Walrein, but I should be able to take an Ice Beam. Instead, it also falls in one return, so that's Glacia done. The last Elite Four member is a Drake, and he should be easy since I have Ice Beam to take care of most of his team. Instead, I get a bit trolled by Shelgon, since he protects multiple times. This causes me to use quite a few Ice Beam PPs, so I'm not sure if I will have enough for the whole fight. The rest of his dragons are all a one-shot, fortunately, until we reach his last Pokemon, who is also a Kingdra. Since I know Ice Beam will not be enough, I try for return, but it does pitiful damage, so I have to set up. But this is quite scary, since his Kingdra also knows Dragon Dance, and he starts to set up before me. A few tense turns later, I get him low enough in potion range, and even though he has one more Dragon Dance than me, I am still faster, so I can defeat the annoying Seahorse. Finally, we are at the champion, and this fight was also a bit scary, since his team is quite tanky, and to make things a bit worse, his lead Wailord knows Blizzard, who, yeah, it's only neutral, but it still deals a lot of damage. Predicting this, I thought Rest, which I will be using to restore my HP once they go low enough. I get a bit of a scare as I get frozen, but fortunately thaw out immediately, so that did not go badly. The first couple of minutes of this fight is just me setting up, taking hits over and over again. I don't think he even missed a single Blizzard, that's a bit unfair, but thanks to Rest I can always heal up, as long as I am careful with what I'm doing. Eventually I get to the point of being confident enough to be able to one-shot the rest of his team, so I start going on the offensive with Return. Noticing my extremely high attack, he sends out Gyarados that lowers it with Intimidate. Unfortunately for him, that's a bit too little, as I still have plenty enough to one-shot everything on his turn with Return. I was hoping he would send out Whiscash second, so I could rest and heal up, but even though that was not the case, I could still defeat the champion with little trouble in the first attempt. Overall, Kingdra was quite fun and easy to use, other than a couple of happy little accidents. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, and etc. If you have any feedback, video ideas, write them down in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. See you next week. Bye!